what we're talking about today, which is the values and vision and purpose, really is the foundation of that culture. And I think that's where, again, some organizations don't get it right because they go straight to how can we create a culture here, but it really is created on solid foundations. It's no different to building a house, right? If we don't build those solid foundations first, then it doesn't matter what we do on top, that house isn't going to be standing for too long. So culture is built from the base of having fabulous foundations. I'm not sure what you think, Mike, but I've heard a lot of people talk about values and vision and purpose, and often it's only shared with that top tier of the organization. And in my experience, ensuring that those values and vision go all the way through the company. Shannah and I talk about from the top to the bottom and the bottom to the top, always, and making sure that there's this complete alignment and everyone's on the same bus. That's really where the magic starts to happen. So 2 questions, I suppose. How do you make sure that it completely goes all right through the organization and not one person gets missed? And the second one is how do you, or what would your top tips be for those listening today in terms of really making sure that you embed those values and vision? What would be the advice you give to listeners? So let's start with, how do you embed that right through the organization?
Yeah, I think as you both know, I'm on a roadshow at the moment. So this is the start of our financial year, being an American company on calendar year. So we're on a roadshow with a few of the leaders, and we're gathering all of the teammates in every location around the region in person for about an hour and a half, where I restate the vision, the strategy, the strategic intent in a way that hopefully they can understand. And we know we're getting it right when you get sick of hearing it yourself, because we're talking about it so often, and it's come through in our video kickoff. It's now happening in in-person sessions, and then our leaders in locations and in different business divisions are taking that down and doing it all over again. And we really do subscribe to that kind of message being communicated 7 times in 7 different formats as a way of landing. We've produced the one pager, which I shared with you both, that summarizes insight on a page. It's really in everything that we do, and it's so repetitive that the consistency becomes almost subconscious, so that no matter where people are in the organization, they can understand it. The other piece that I think is really critical to that is I meet every new starter in APAC. Every week I have a session. I used to do it one-on-one in person when I was traveling. Then COVID hit and it allowed us to switch to a more regular virtual format. Now I think we hired 185 people last year, so we couldn't do one-on-ones there. That would be unwieldy. So now we have small groups of, we have say 6 to 8 new starters in a week. We get on a Teams call and we just have a chat, and that gives me an opportunity to set those foundations in their first week, but also to build a relationship with me personally, and to set a tone with all of the people in our organization that they're not at the bottom of a hierarchy. They're a valuable teammate that has access to the entire resources of the entire leadership team. And I'm really firm on people in our business don't have to go to their manager to go to their manager to go to their manager to get something done. And it's obviously not that common, because often the feedback I get is for particularly more junior people who say, like, I've never met the boss of a company that I've worked for. And I think that's appalling. But what's your job if it's not to look after the people who are doing the work for your teammates and your clients? And I think it's the highest priority thing in my calendar by far. And when you set that tone and it creates, so people talk about the need for a flat structure, but if you don't have connections right through the business, then that's really just an ambition that's not being realized. So unless you're reaching out to people and taking the time, and when we have these events, as we're having at the moment on our roadshow, we have drinks and canapes afterwards, and that's just a chance to go one-on-one with just a whole diverse range of people and understand who they are and what they love and why did they join us and what are they enjoying about their experience and what can we do better. And that's how we learn. But in the same process, the questions we get asked are always about where's the business going and what's the strategy and what's the vision. And even if we've just communicated that an hour earlier, there's still the questions that people have, so they'll want to know more. And we just encourage those conversations to be frequent and open and transparent. We don't have anything in our business in the 6 years that I've been here that I would say is exclusively the domain of the executive meeting room. Everything that we talk about, that we're thinking about and that we're doing is very transparent with any teammate in the business, and we try to over pivot on communication until it's, as I say, until we get sick of ourselves hearing it.
It's fantastic, and it's a brilliant way to open those communication lines and really allow people to share their voice and ideas, and bring things to the table that maybe they wouldn't bring to the table if it was that closed leadership environment. So what would be your 3 quick tips if there was 3 things you really want leaders and businesses to take away today from values and vision and really driving high performance in an organization, as you have done? What would the 3 tips be for them?
I think, if having learned what I've learned from Insight, if I was being asked to join a new organization and focus on resetting values, what I've learned straight away is that those values would not be the standard list of 10. I think the fact we have 3 is just it plays into the rule of 3s. It's easy to remember. It's meaningful enough to get into detail with what they are and how they interrelate and why they mean something. So I would certainly advocate that. Actually, part 2 of our values, which we had a bit of a reset maybe 1 to 2 years ago, we decided to add a little cheat sheet for our teammates on not just the 3 words, but how turn that into more active language. So there's a description of what that looks like when it works and why it's important. And that was a really good add as well. So if I was working on values, I would focus there. I would also continue with that philosophy of kind of getting over your own ego as a leader, and really living that servant leadership mentality, and thinking every day when you come to work. I sort of look at, there are people in my business who are working on the front lines with our clients who I honestly believe would be a far bigger loss to the organization if they walked out the door than I would. So we need to think that way in order to make sure that the people who are really doing the great work are getting the best out of us as a resource for them. So embrace that. And then the third one is to, hierarchy is important in an organization, but if it's too strict and structured, it actually becomes an unintended filter. So if you really want to know what's going on in the organization, asking the people that report to you to tell you what they think you want to hear is one way to do it. But talking to the people that at the front lines of the organization is the most unfiltered version, and you find out things that people naturally don't necessarily want to share, or that get filtered as you get further up the food chain. So I would say flattening the organization by being extremely in-person connected with as many people in your business as possible, and constantly having a very open, a very non-judgmental approach to that allows people to feel that they have the psychological safety to be critical or to suggest new things or to take risks. It's a really virtuous circle if you can create the space for people to tell you things that are really going to help you and help other teammates to have a better experience and constantly improve.